Chapter 121. Ask me if I agree. What are you laughing at? Don't tell me you're trying to conceal the truth. Shai Dudel spoke. Based on what I know, your clothes were made by the foreign designer Q Cha, but they're obsolete. You actually picked up Q Cha's pieces that were in the trash and wore them as treasures? If you pay attention to Q Cha, you will know that her style has changed. You don't even know a trademark dress, and yet you dare to insult me, Ayn Rand teased. Q Cha was a good friend of hers from abroad, and she had helped her with treatment before. She knew the concept of Q Cha's clothes very well, and that dress has been abandoned by her for many years now. She didn't expect to see it here. What did you say? How could this dress be obsolete? Shai Dudel was nervous. She had gotten someone to tailor this dress for her at a high price. How could it have been picked up from the trash? Dudel, don't listen to her nonsense. She doesn't know anything. She just said that to upset you. Don't be scared. The girl beside her comforted her. At this moment, the number of onlookers increased, and they crowded again. Nonsense. Country bumpkin, do you think Dudel is easy to bully? Get out if you know what's good for you. This isn't a place where a country pumpkin like you should be. The woman pushed Ayn Rand. At this moment, old Mrs. Mo walked from the crowd and spoke harshly. Who dares to cause trouble at my banquet? Are they not respecting me anymore? Old Mrs. Mo's makeup was meticulous, and she wore branded clothes. She walked out shakily with a walking stick. Grandma, hurry and teach this girl a lesson. She actually dared to make fun of me. Relying on the business connection between the Shai Corporation and the Mo family group, and because Shai Dudel had spoken with old Mrs. Mo before, she directly cuddled up against old Mrs. Mo. Old Mrs. Mo looked up and saw Ayn Rand. She immediately broke into a smile. Ayn Rand, how are you? Have you been bullied? She hurriedly pushed Shai Dudel's hand aside and took Ayn Rand's hand. Grandma, Shai Dudel was a little surprised. Shut up. Do you know who she is? How dare you bully her? Old Mrs. Mo turned around and asked fiercely. Shai Dudel was taken aback, not expecting Ayn Rand to have such a powerful background. She had spoken to old Mrs. Mo a few times, so why was it useless now? Grandma, I didn't bully her. She said that my clothes were picked up from the trash. Shai Dudel felt wronged. She was looking forward to old Mrs. Mo standing up for her and chasing this bad woman away. Old Mrs. Mo eyed Shai Dudel. Your clothes are indeed outdated. Even an old lady like me can tell. Can't you tell that you came to my birthday party dressed in such rubbish? Don't think that you can wear whatever you want just because you're the daughter of the Shai family. I will never let anyone bully my people. Take a good look at this place. How dare you behave atrocity here? I will talk to Jinrong about the cooperation between the Shai family and the Mo family. You will have to see if I agree on letting anyone bully my people. Old Mrs. Mo spoke with such vigor that others were startled. At this moment, Shai Shan hurried over. When he heard that his daughter had caused trouble in front of old Mrs. Mo and had ruined their partnership, he was furious and slapped Shai Dudel. Old Mrs. Mo, my daughter is insensible and offended this young lady. I have taught her a lesson. Can you please forgive her? Shai Shan bowed. How dare you bully my people? Go home and reflect on yourself. Old Mrs. Mo was furious. It's all right, Grandma. Miss Shai isn't very sensible. I don't mind. Ayn Rand didn't care about them at all. Look at this sensible girl. Since she doesn't mind, I won't say anything. You can leave. You're not welcome here. Old Mrs. Mo said. About the partnership. Shai Shan wanted to ask more. After all, the Mo Family Corporation was worth millions. We'll see. Old Mrs. Mo didn't say anything and left with Lay and Anran. Anran, Grandma helped you vent your anger just now. With me around, no one will dare to bully you, Old Mrs. Mo said kindly. Thank you, Grandma. Jinrong said that he had something to do and wouldn't be coming. Anran found a quiet place to sit down. I know, that rascal already told me that he wouldn't be coming to his grandma's birthday celebration. I couldn't even compare it to his work, Old Mrs. Mo complained. Grandma, don't you have me? Anran took out a small box from her bag, which looked extremely exquisite. This is my birthday gift to you. Happy birthday. Anran smiled and handed the gift box over. Old Mrs. Mo accepted it happily. She opened the box and saw an emerald necklace. She was overjoyed, knowing at a glance that it wasn't cheap. It wasn't cheap, right? She asked. It's Grandma's birthday gift. It's worth it regardless of how expensive it is. This emerald is a symbol of longevity, and you'll definitely live to a ripe old age if you wear it. Anran's small mouth was as sweet as honey when she coaxed someone, making old Mrs. Mo very happy. You're so eloquent. It's really a blessing of half a lifetime for Jinrong to marry you. Listen to Grandma tonight and don't leave. I'll get Jinrong to come back as well, and the two of you can stay together. Old Mrs. Mo smiled, not letting go of Lan Anran's hand. Chapter 122. Acknowledging one's roots and ancestors. Xu Pei walked over with several middle-aged women smiling. Mom, these are all members of the Mo family's branch relatives. They are here to celebrate your 80th birthday. A middle-aged woman with a face full of hyaluronic acid walked towards old Mrs. Mo with a stiff expression and smiled. Old Mrs. Mo, long time no see. How is your health? Old Mrs. Mo looked at the unfamiliar woman in front of her and asked in surprise, You are... Xu Pei, don't find these unrelated people to coax me. I don't know them. Xu Pei smiled and said, Mom, how would I dare to coax you? Let me introduce you. These are all members of the Mo family branch relatives. Perhaps it has been a long time since you met them, but they're all Jinrong's cousins. Old Mrs. Mo was very unhappy. Did Xu Pei take bribes from them? They weren't familiar with these distant relatives anymore, and they only had the Mo family name. Old Mrs. Mo, you're from a rich family. You may not remember us, but it's good that we remember you. We're here to ask you for a favor. The oldest among them, Hong Yu, stood up and smiled. Favor? Old Mrs. Mo glanced at Hong Yu. This woman had heavy makeup, and the inferior perfume she wore was pungent. She wasn't a good person at glance. Yes, the Mo Family Corporation is a big business, and my good-for-nothing son is 30 years old. He doesn't have a wife and doesn't have a proper job. Will old Mrs. Mo be able to help him? Anran eyed the people in front of her. They were probably here to get in through connections with old Mrs. Mo. Jinrong is usually in charge of the company's matters, so an old woman like me wouldn't care. Jinrong has something to do and the company is too busy, so he didn't come. I can't control this matter. Old Mrs. Mo politely declined. Old Mrs. Mo, Jinrong is your grandson. We watched him grow up. How dare he disobey you? That is not necessary. I'll talk to Jinrong. Old Mrs. Mo found it noisy and stood to pull Lan Anran away. Xu Pei pretended to only just notice Anran. Mom, Anran is really beautiful today. The people behind looked at Anran with jealousy in their eyes. Hong Yu curled her lips and said, Miss, may I know which family you're from? You're very pretty, but you don't have any manners. Why didn't you greet your elders? I'm sorry, madam. I don't know your name or where you're from. If even Grandma doesn't know your name, how would I know? Aren't you being too deliberate? Anran smiled and said calmly. My granddaughter-in-law is right. I don't even know which family you're from, so how would she know since she's new? Some people are old enough and yet are jealous of a junior. Aren't you embarrassed? Old Mrs. Mo suppressed Hong Yu's arrogance. Hong Yu was stunned. She had never heard of Mo Jinrong getting married. How did he suddenly have a wife? Ayn Rand followed old Mrs. Mo to the highest seat in the banquet hall. Old Mrs. Mo didn't like such occasions. Firstly, there were too many people, and secondly, some people had ulterior motives, always wanting to murder her granddaughter-in-law. Grandma, it's your birthday. It's no good for us to sit here, right? Ayn Rand carried the train of her long dress. What's wrong with that? I hate such occasions. It's noisy and the party has just started. Let's go downstairs when it's time to cut the cake. Old Mrs. Mo smiled. At this moment, Shu Pei was furious because she was rebuffed by old Mrs. Mo. Old thing, you embarrassed me in front of so many people. Just you wait, Shu Pei cursed. Just then, Mo Chang-wen's call came through. Hello, how are things? Are those old women working? No, old Mrs. Mo is imperious to everything and made me upset, Shu Pei complained. Damn it, why is Mom so stubborn? I'll be right there. Mo Chang-wen hung up the phone. He originally wanted Shu Pei to use a few women to attract old Mrs. Mo's attention, but didn't expect her not to be fooled. He could only do it himself. Old Mrs. Mo and Ayn Rand were talking in the private room upstairs. Just then, Ayn Rand received a text from Fatty saying that he had found a clue about Shang Taiyan and that it was inside the banquet hall. Ayn Rand pretended to be calm, listening to old Mrs. Mo talk about Mo Jinrong's interesting childhood. Grandma, I didn't expect Jinrong to be so cute and interesting when he was young. Ayn Rand smiled. In her past life, she never cared about Mo Jinrong, so these things are new to her. Of course, if you still want to know, Grandma has more to share with you. Old Mrs. Mo smiled. When it was about time, she looked downstairs. It's about time. The banquet meal can start now. Let's go down there together. Ayn Rand nodded, carrying her long dress in one hand and supported old Mrs. Mo with the other. At this moment, Mo Chang-wen suddenly appeared of old Mrs. Mo and Ayn Rand. Mom, I have something to tell you. Mo Chang-wen pulled old Mrs. Mo. Ayn Rand smiled. Grandma, Uncle, I'm going to the washroom. Old Mrs. Mo nodded. Chapter 123, Exploring the Secret Again. Mo Chang-wen glanced at Ayn Rand and turned to look at old Mrs. Mo. What are you going to say? Old Mrs. Mo looked at her useless son, feeling angry because of his illegitimate child and those women that were arranged by him. She was old, but she wasn't stupid. She knew her son best. Mom, today is your 80th birthday. I'm sorry, I have a favor to ask of you. Old Mrs. Mo knew about Mo Chang-wen's intentions. Aren't you just thinking of bringing back your illegitimate child? I don't care about this. It's my birthday today. Don't make things difficult for me. Ask your wife. Old Mrs. Mo was frustrated at the mention of this. Mom, Shu Pei wouldn't agree. This child is from the Mo family. You can do whatever you want to his mother. It's just that this child is just a boy, your grandson. He can't eat or sleep well outside. If you agree, you can raise him by your side. Jinrong and I are very busy, so it would be great if you had a grandson to talk to. Mo Chang-wen had found his illegitimate child and given that woman a sum of money to bring him back. Shut up, you should ask your wife. I'm not participating in this. Old Mrs. Mo was sick of these things. She just wanted a great grandson. She didn't care about that illegitimate son. In the toilet, Ayn Rand was texting Fatty. Shang Taiyan's exact location. The presidential suite on the top floor, Fatty immediately replied. At this moment, the sound of high heels came from inside the bathroom. Ayn Rand hurriedly put away her phone and pretended to touch up her makeup as Shu Pei spoke from behind her. Ayn Rand, you look great today. No wonder old Mrs. Mo is so protective of you. Thank you, Aunt. You look great too, Ayn Rand replied coldly. I don't understand how Jinrong could leave a beauty like you here, Ayn Rand. Don't you think that Jinrong will jinx you one day? Look at my mouth, I mean. Jinrong's fate isn't good and he's impulsive, aren't you afraid? Shu Pei spoke with a deeper meaning that Ayn Rand spoke up first. What's there to be afraid of? Aren't you by Jinrong's side too? Aren't you living well too? I'll be alright, as long as you're alright. That's different. You are his wife. You... Alright, Aunt. I'm going out. Aunt, don't worry about me. Ayn Rand smiled, put the lipstick in her branded bag, and left with a smile. You rude girl. You won't be able to cry later, Shupei cursed. Ayn Rand returned to old Mrs. Mose's side. Grandma, I'm back. Alright, let's go cut the cake. Old Mrs. Mose smiled happily when she saw Ayn Rand. Mo Chang-wen followed them silently. The music in the hall downstairs paused and the song Happy Birthday was switched on. A group of people pushed a 9-layered cake that looked like a longevity peach and walked out slowly. Old Mrs. Mo and Ayn Rand held hands and cut the cake, causing the atmosphere to become extremely lively. Upstairs in the presidential suite, it was cold and cheerless. Rongzi stared at the monitor in a daze. Young master, why don't you make an appearance at Grandma's 80th birthday? It's bustling downstairs and it's cold and cheerless up here. I want some cake too, Rongzi grumbled. No, I'll talk to Grandma alone later. Mo Jinrong stood up and looked out the window. Young master, Miss Land didn't show any reaction or make any move after such a long time. Will she really come? Mo-san asked. Mo Jinrong didn't reply. He just wanted to test if Ayn Rand was that person. Downstairs, Ayn Rand secretly picked up her phone while no one was paying attention. She seemed to be taking a photo, but she was actually sending a message. Send the box of equipment over to room 257. Boss, isn't that too dangerous? There must have been times when we were tricked, Patty asked. Of course I know the danger. Since the person wants to set me in, I want to see who it is so curious. Ayn Rand turned off her phone and walked over to old Mrs. Mo. Grandma, I'm a little tired. Can I go up and rest for a while? Old Mrs. Mo looked at Ayn Rand's exhausted appearance and hurriedly said, You must be tired. Wearing such high heels is hard on you. Hurry up and rest up. There are many empty rooms upstairs. You can have whichever one you want. Mom, let me send Ayn Rand over. It's not convenient for a girl like her. Mo Chang-wen hurriedly said. You? Grandma, it's all right. Let Uncle go with me. I'll be back soon. Ayn Rand spoke. Old Mrs. Mo didn't want Mo Chang-wen to go with her, but since her granddaughter-in-law said so, she didn't say anything and nodded in agreement. After passing through the corridor, Mo Chang-wen suddenly said, Ayn Rand, Uncle was indeed a little presumptuous last time. I thought about it when I got back, and it was indeed wrong of me. I hope you can forgive Uncle. It's alright. I know you have something to say, so you might as well say it at once. Ayn Rand had seen through Mo Chang-wen's intention. He wouldn't visit unless he needed something. Ayn Rand, you're a smart person and you should know my difficulties. The child that was stranded outside is also your cousin. You can't just watch him wander around outside. Your aunt isn't willing to take him back, and neither is your grandma. I know you're close to your grandma and she likes you the most. Can you put in a few good words for her so she'll agree to take him in? Mo Chang-wen asked humbly. Chapter 124, Escape. Uncle, I really can't intervene in this matter. I wouldn't dare to make a move on Grandma. You should discuss it with Aunt. Ayn Rand smiled and said, Ayn Rand, Grandma loves you the most. You just have to say the word, Mo Chang-wen continued. Sorry, you should ask Aunt first. Ayn Rand walked into the room and closed the door, not giving Mo Chang-wen another chance. Man, Ayn Rand, just you wait. As long as you're dead, old Mrs. Mo will definitely accept that child. Hatred filled Mo Chang-wen's eyes, and he turned to leave angrily. When Ayn Rand heard no response from behind the door, she walked over to the bed with relief. The things she needed were still on the bed. She quickly changed out of her long dress and high heels, changed into a simple outfit, climbed through a window, and moved towards the upper floors. Rongzi and Mo-san, who were watching the monitor, were asleep. To be on the safe side, Ayn Rand didn't go straight to the presidential suite but jumped onto the balcony of the room next door. She took a miniature camera and placed it on the balcony of the room next door using a refractor. She then used the camera to transmit information to the computer in real time. But she didn't find anything after looking around. Was there a mistake in the information? Ayn Rand directed the camera to spin in circles in the presidential suite. At this moment, Mo Jinrong noticed something strange and was surprised to find that Ayn Rand wasn't in the surveillance video. "Where's Lan Ayn Rand?" he exclaimed. Rongzi and Mo San rubbed their eyes. "What?" Mo Jinrong seemed to sense someone outside and gestured for silence. Ayn Rand was just about to look at a figure when the camera flickered and the screen suddenly went back. What happened? Crap, she was caught. Ayn Rand was quick and agile. She took the stairs to avoid the surveillance camera and escaped the room quickly. Mo Jinrong, who was next door, guessed that someone was watching him and immediately gave the order. Search every room on this floor." "Is she here?" Rongzi asked in a daze. Mo Jinrong glanced at Rongzi and spoke coldly. "She ran away. I didn't send you here to sleep." "I only need to look through the surveillance records," Rongzi immediately said after quickly thinking. "There's no need. Since she can come, it means that she is prepared." "You won't find her in the surveillance camera footage," Mo Jinrong said. At this moment, someone walked in. "Boss, the rooms have been searched, but there's no trace of her." "Let's go to the stairs." Mo Jinrong suddenly reacted, rushing towards the staircase with a group of people and started rushing down the stairs. Ayn Rand suddenly heard a voice from above, presumably from Shang Tian. She directly sat on the handrail and glided down smoothly. Ayn Rand arrived on the second floor faster than Mo Jinrong. She quickly hid in her room and changed into her original clothes. She watched Mo Jinrong chase her all the way to the first floor before coming down naturally. "Grandma, I'm back." Ayn Rand held old Mrs. Mo's arm intimately. At this moment, Mo Jinrong reached the first floor, panting tiredly. "Jinrong, you rascal, where did you come from? Grandma's birthday isn't as important as your work." Old Mrs. Mo was pleasantly surprised. "Grandma, I'm here." Mo Jinrong was out of breath. "Jinrong, where did you come from? Was Mo Jinrong the one who chased her?" She wiped Mo Jinrong's sweat. "I just wanted to celebrate Grandma's birthday, so I came over as soon as I was done," Mo Jinrong continued. Looking at Ayn Rand's calm expression, she didn't seem to have fled in a sorry state at all. Was it really not her? "Rascal, Grandma thought I wouldn't be able to see you today. I left you a piece of cake to try." Old Mrs. Mo brought over a slice of cake and smiled at Mo Jinrong. "Thank you, Grandma." Mo Jinrong took the cake and ate it. "Ayn Rand, did you rest well just now? If you're uncomfortable, Grandma will send you home." Old Mrs. Mo was concerned. "Yes, I'm all right, Grandma." Ayn Rand looked at Mo Jinrong. She wasn't in the banquet hall just now, but had gone to rest. It was no wonder they couldn't find her. Now she was a big suspect. Mo Jinrong ate as he thought. At the moment, the music in the middle of the stage started, and some people started to dance. Old Mrs. Mo looked at her grandchildren shrewdly and smiled. "The two of you, hurry and dance. I'm old and I will be happy to see you dance." Mo Jinrong didn't want to go near Ayn Rand, afraid that his illness would flare up again. Ayn Rand stretched out her hand, pulling Jinrong towards the center of the stage. She knew that with her around, Mo Jinrong wouldn't fall ill. The spotlight shone on them. The music from the stage rang out. They held hands and started to dance. Everyone on the dance floor stopped and moved to the side, quietly watching the two of them dance in the middle of the stage. Ayn Rand looked particularly beautiful under the light. Her fair skin and every move complemented Mo Jinrong's exquisite features, making them a perfect match. "Don't be happy so early on. It's just an act," Mo Jinrong whispered in Ayn Rand's ear. "Of course I know it's an act." "Who do you think wants to dance with you?" Ayn Rand asked disdainfully. Chapter 125, Tracked. "Of course. Why else would you give me that gift?" Mo Jinrong continued to speak softly, but he didn't stop. Ayn Rand blushed when she thought about it, but it couldn't be seen clearly under the light. So she spoke hesitantly. I said it was a misunderstanding. And today was also a misunderstanding? Mo Zhenrong really wanted to ask Ayn Rand if she was cute. What? Ayn Rand asked in a daze. Do you have any other identities today? Mo Zhenrong asked. Ayn Rand was stunned, almost stepping on Mo Zhenrong's feet. Of course. Ayn Rand opened her mouth slightly, showing 8 perfect teeth. What? Mo Zhenrong asked as he twirled Ayn Rand. I am Mo Zhenrong's wife today. Ayn Rand returned to Mo Zhenrong's arms and let go again. Mo Zhenrong didn't have much of a reaction, but the moment he turned to her, he smiled. In the end, Mo Zhenrong hugged Ayn Rand's small waist and bowed slightly, ending the dance. The entire birthday party broke into a thunderous applause. They have never seen such a handsome man and beautiful woman dance, and so were extremely excited. The banquet lasted for another hour. Ayn Rand and Mo Zhenrong were about to go home when they had reached the door. They heard old Mrs. Mo say, Ayn Rand, stay here. You and Zhenrong are married. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. Grandma, I'm going back to the company soon. Let Ayn Rand go back. Mo Zhenrong didn't want Ayn Rand to stay in the Mo family's house either. Old Mrs. Mo was a little worried, wondering when she would be able to hold a great-grandson. Rascal, nothing is more important than your work. Ayn Rand, you should go back. I can't even keep my grandson, she sighed. Ayn Rand smiled, bid old Mrs. Mo farewell, and got into the car. Feeling the car drive far away, Ayn Rand heaved a sigh of relief, took off her high heels, and felt extremely at ease. What she didn't notice was a black Buick car following behind her, following her quietly. Ayn Rand was sending a message. Fatty, the camera only took a black leather shoe. Help me find out how many people bought this brand. Ayn Rand sent the photo she took to Fatty. All right. After Fatty answered, Ayn Rand looked out the window and suddenly noticed something wrong with the car behind her. Little Wang, turn right in front. Ayn Rand's sharp senses told her that something was wrong. Miss Lam, that's not the way home, chauffeur Little Wang replied. It's all right, just drive. Ayn Rand wanted to see the situation in the car behind them. But unexpectedly, just as Little Wang turned right, the Buick followed them as well. It seemed that some people were up to no good. Ayn Rand made a dangerous decision. Move, someone is following us. I'll drive. Little Wang, the chauffeur, was shocked. He had never experienced such a thing and immediately stopped the car, moved into the front passenger seat. Ayn Rand couldn't care less about a long dress as she clambered into the driver's seat. She stepped on the accelerator and sped off. Miss Lan, you know how to drive? Little Wang was a little scared. He heard that female drivers were extremely scary. My driving skills are superb. Sit tight. Ayn Rand turned the steering wheel abruptly. The car behind her seemed to think that they were being exposed and decided not to hide anymore. They decided to attack immediately. The driver quickly caught up and slammed into Ayn Rand's car. How dare you bump into me? Ayn Rand wasn't to be outdone. She immediately slowed down and braked hard. The car behind her felt greater impact from the bump this time. She stepped onto the accelerator again and turned into a small road. The Buick followed behind closely. Miss Lan, where are we? The chauffeur gripped the handle tightly and spoke in horror. Just wait and see. Ayn Rand's expression was calm. Soon they were on the main road, and they had lost the Buick. Miss Lan, who are they? I don't know. Ayn Rand wondered if Shang Tian had discovered someone was investigating him and wanted to silence her. There were 3 people in the Buick. The front driver, Fang He, slammed the steering wheel angrily. That woman sure is tough. I didn't expect her to escape. Boss, what if Mr. Mo blames us? His lackey asked. Think about how to get out first. Where am I? The other person looked in the ground in fear. Fang He got out of the car and looked around. There was no road in this god-forsaken place. It was full of trees. He wondered how the woman had found this place and gotten out. Damn it, the car was smashed by that damn woman. Fei He had no choice but to call Mo Chang-wen and tell him the mission failed. What? What are you doing? You can't even beat a woman? Chang-wen was furious. Boss Mo, that woman isn't a kind person. She led us into a godforsaken place. What are we going to do now? The car is broken and the sun is about to set. You have to save us. Fei He was furious. Trash, I'll give you one more chance. Kill that woman. Mo Chang-wen hung up the phone and called for a tow truck to rescue the three of them. Chapter 126. Take her home to provide for him. Ayn Rand drove back home. She didn't mention anything about the incident, as she was afraid that her father and mom would be worried. Mom, Dad, I'm home. She pretended to be happy. Li Yer looked at her daughter happily. My precious daughter is back. How was your day? It was alright. Ayn Rand spoke easily. Lan Ting-young had changed into a suit and was about to leave. Dad, where are you going? Ayn Rand asked curiously. I'm going to the hospital to see your grandma. She is still my mom, your grandma. Lan Ting-young was a little helpless. Alright, Dad, I'll go with you. I was too impulsive this time. I want to apologize to Grandma. Don't worry, I don't think we'll get into a fight. It's my fault last time, and I have been wanting to visit Grandma these past few days, but I was a little scared. Ayn Rand spoke with a lonely expression. Lan Ting-young thought about it and agreed. After all, they were 2 generations apart. How could a family have hatred overnight? He nodded in agreement. I'll get changed. Please wait for me. Ayn Rand turned around and went upstairs. She changed into simple clothes and took off her gorgeous gown. In a blink of an eye, she was a young woman again. At the hospital, Zhao Shumi's leg injury was almost healed, and Lan Tingyi had discharged Zhao Shumi to prepare to go home. The unfiled thing, he hasn't visited me since I was hospitalized. It's clear that he doesn't respect me at all, that ingrate. Zhao Shumi cursed. Mom, the discharge procedures are settled. We can go home. But your leg hasn't healed yet. I want to bring you to our house so that it will be easier for us to take care of you. Lan Tingyi was very filial, which satisfied Zhao Shumi. My good son, you are much better than your brother. My leg is fine. I can walk by myself. Zhao Shumi didn't love her son for nothing and was overjoyed. Xu Yanshan rolled her eyes at Tingyi. She didn't expect him to say such a thing. He hadn't even said anything before deciding to bring old Mrs. Lan home. Mom, let me help you home. Xu Yanshan reached out to help Zhao Shumi, but was stopped by Tingyi, who spoke solemnly. Mom, listen to me. Come home with me for a while. It's not good that there isn't anyone around when your leg is still injured. Xu Yanshan poked Tingyi and glared at him. Her house was only so big, and it was just right for 3 people to stay in. How could she have an extra room for old Mrs. Lan? What are you looking at me for? Can't I bring my mother back to be filial? Lan Tingyi was dissatisfied. When did I look at you? Mom, stay as long as you want. Xu Yanshan was a little angry and said, Alright, I know you're filial. I'm old and I don't like going to those tall buildings. I'm not used to it. So I'll go back to my villa. My leg is almost healed and I have a nanny to take care of me. I'll be fine. Zhao Shumi knew that her eldest son was poor and would have to pay for his living expenses. Living under someone else's roof wasn't easy, and she didn't want to embarrass him. Lan Tingyi's expression changed drastically. Seeing that he couldn't stop old Mrs. Lan, he persuaded her in a different way. Mom, just listen to me. I don't trust that nanny to take care of you. Don't you trust your biological son? Okay, I believe you. I'll go pack. Zhao Shumi couldn't bear disagreeing with Lan Tingyi's request, so she agreed. Xu Yanshan was furious. Lan Tingyi was so bold now. He didn't even discuss things with her, and yet he dared to scold her. Lan Tingyi looked at his wife angrily and pulled Xu Yanshan aside to explain. Once Mom is living with us, we will have our living expense paid off for. Mom will definitely have money. As long as we serve her well, won't you be able to buy your bags? Xu Yanshan didn't expect this and immediately broke into a smile, hurriedly helping old Mrs. Lan pack her things. The 3 of them were about to leave when Lan Ting-young brought Ayn Rand into the ward. Zhao Shumi was instantly furious. What are you doing here? Are you here to see me make a fool of myself? You insolent girl, having an affair and hilding your elders. Lantingyang, you tell your daughter well. It's too late for you to try to please Mom, since she's about to be discharged from the hospital. Lantingy cursed angrily. He was furious. And the bruise on his upper abdomen was still hurting. Mom, Anran told me that it was an accident. I can only say that it was my fault for not coming to see you. Last time, I was indeed angry. I brought Anran over to apologize. No matter what, you're still my mom, and family don't hold grudges overnight. Lantingyang smiled and said, Family? Who's family to you? The world is upside down now. The younger generation dares to hit the older generation. I have caught your daughter having an affair in the hotel. She's so young, and yet she's already having an affair. She just got married, and yet she controls her temper. I don't have such a son or a granddaughter, so get lost. The very thought enraged Zhao Shumi. Grandma, Mo Jinglong is Butler Mo, Anran said purposely, in case this old thing didn't know what was going on. So they definitely wouldn't believe it. Chapter 127, Knowing the House was Sold. You jinx, how dare you deceive us? That's Butler Mo. I'm not blind. Zhao Shumi continued to curse. Mom, you must be mistaken. Anran isn't a child, Lantingyang explained. Grandma, I was wrong. We shouldn't have treated you like that. Anran apologized obediently. Shut up. The Lan family doesn't have a granddaughter like you. Get lost. I want to go home. Zhao Shumi didn't want to hear anything from Anran. Home? Back to whose house? Anran asked curiously. Of course it's back to my house. Otherwise, why would I have to rely on you guys to take care of Mom? Lantingyi was a little proud. Oh, Uncle, did you bring Grandma home because her villa was sold? Anran spoke deliberately. What did you say? What happened to my villa? Zhao Shumi asked agitatedly. What nonsense are you saying? Get lost. I don't want to see you even for a minute. Seeing that he was about to be exposed, Lantingyi hurriedly pulled Zhao Shumi and walked away. Wait a minute, explain yourself. What happened to my villa? Zhao Shumi asked agitatedly. That was the ancestral mansion left behind by the old man. It couldn't be sold. Anran, what nonsense are you saying? How could Dad's villa disappear just like that? Lantingyang was in disbelief. Ah, don't you know? I thought you knew. Wasn't it Grandma who told you to sell it? Yesterday, when I wanted to apologize to Grandma, I went to the villa, but it was empty, and there was a new person staying there. Anran pretended to be surprised and covered her mouth. What? What happened? Zhao Shumi stomped her foot angrily and looked at Lantingyi with fire in her eyes. No, Mom, don't listen to her nonsense. Let's go home. Lantingyi hurriedly pulled Zhao Shumi away. It's true, Grandma. If you don't believe me, you can go home to have a look. I wouldn't dare lie to you. You have to uphold your rights if this is a scam. The house is Grandma's ancestral mansion, right? I heard that it was sold at a low price. Anran continued. Anran, what nonsense are you saying? Lantingyang was dissatisfied. I wouldn't dare to talk nonsense. You can ask them yourself. Anran's confident appearance made Zhao Shumi suspicious. Tingy, I want to take a look at the villa. I'll go back to your place if nothing has happened. Zhao Shumi hesitated and said, After all, it was the old master's ancestral mansion, so she didn't dare to joke around. Mom, what could have happened to that big villa? Let's go home first. Xu Yanshan smiled and said, Grandma, do you really not want what Grandpa left behind? Anran added fuel to the fire. Shut up. Tingy, I'm going back to the villa to take a look. Zhao Shumi felt something was wrong, so she pushed Lantingyi aside and left the hospital. Lantingyi couldn't stop her. He could only follow behind, not knowing what to do. What's wrong? Are you feeling uneasy? Xu Yanshan looked at Lantingyi curiously. Honey, He leaned over and whispered in Xu Yanshan's ear. Xu Yanshan's eyes widened in shock. You... Lantingyi tried his best to comfort his wife, hoping that she could help him. His wife was resourceful and eloquent, so she could be able to appease old Mrs. Lan. The car arrived at the Land family villa. Zhao Shumi got out of the car in a hurry. She tried to push the door open, but it wasn't the familiar nanny who came out. It was a stranger. There was a lot of banging inside, but she didn't know what was happening. "Who are you?" Zhao Shumi asked anxiously. "Who are you? I just bought this house and it's being renovated. Is something the matter?" The woman spoke. "Nonsense. When did I agree to sell this house? Get out. Everyone stop. No one is allowed to touch my house." Zhao Shumi pushed the woman aside and rushed in to shout, "Madam, you have to be reasonable. We paid for this house in full. Your son said that the family is anxious for money and is selling it cheaply. It's written in black and white." "You can't go back on your word," the woman said anxiously. "Bullshit. I didn't agree to that. Which son of mine said that?" Zhao Shumi turned and saw Lan Tingyoung. "It's you, isn't it? You want to file a son." "Mom, it's not me. I don't know," Tingyoung explained. "Mom, think about it. Don't you have another son? There should be a name on the contract, right?" Ayn Rand spoke easily. The woman thought for a moment. "I think his name is Lan Tingyi." She pointed to Lan Ting behind her. He was present when the contract was signed, and she remembered him clearly. "Tingyi, that's impossible. How could you?" Zhao Shumi looked at Tingyi in disbelief. "Mom, I let you down." Tingyi knelt down directly and lowered his head like a child who did something wrong. Zhao Shumi's heart sank. How could her favorite eldest son do such a thing? Zhao Shumi immediately stepped forward and slapped Lan Tingyi. "Tell me what happened," Zhao Shumi shouted. Chapter 128. Save him. "Mom, I originally wanted to sell it and win the money back through gambling in a few days. Then I would buy back the house. I didn't think that they would still lend me money after losing so much, so I wanted to turn the tables. Mom, don't worry. I'll definitely win back in a few days. When the time comes, I will definitely get Dad's home back. Mom, trust me," Lan Tingyi cried. "Tingyi, how could you? This is Dad's ancestral asset, and it must be worth at least tens of millions. How could you sell it off so easily?" Lan Tingyoung felt extremely regretful. "Tingyoung, shut up. It's all because of you two. Otherwise, how could I be poor and have to sell Mom's house?" Lan Tingyi's gaze was vicious. "Hey, Uncle, what are you saying? If my dad doesn't give you money, you won't have money to gamble? Are you blaming us now?" Ayn Rand couldn't bear to watch any longer. "Mom, Tingyi just had a moment of folly. We'll definitely buy this back. But we're too tight on cash right now. Why don't you move into our house? We sold this house so we will support you." Shu Yanshin was furious, but he was still her husband and her child's father. She could only say good things. "A moment of folly? You insolent thing! Back when you were in jail, it was also a moment of folly. Now you even sold your father's house. Why don't you sell yourself? Why don't you sell your own house? This is the one thing your father left me. How could you sell it?" Zhao Shumi had just recovered from a serious illness, and her expression wasn't good to begin with. This made her even angrier. "Mom, I was wrong. Forgive me. I'll definitely buy it back," Lan Tingyi knelt and said. At this moment, his phone rang. It was a call for payment, and he picked up angrily. "Hey, didn't I give you the money? What else do you want?" The voice on the other side of the phone was getting angrier and fiercer. "What? When did you give it to us? Lan Tingyi, don't you even think about going back on your word. Hurry up and hand over the 5 million, and we promise we won't disturb you. Otherwise, I'll chop off your arms and legs to pay the debt," the other party threatened. "What are you saying? Are you trying to cheat me? I sent you the money. How could you go back on your words?" Lan Tingyi said, dissatisfied. "Lan Tingyi, cut the crap. We didn't receive it. Those in the trades are loyal people. If you repay us, we won't pester you anymore. Ask around and see when I have. Bao. Stop being loyal and done such things. Were you cheated? I don't care. I'll give you 3 more days to pay the 5 million. If you don't, I'll use your daughter as payment." The call ended and Lan Tingyi was a little confused. "What happened?" "Tingyi, what happened? Where did the money go?" Shu Yanshin asked anxiously. Lan Tingyi shook his head, wondering if he had been cheated. He had sold the house, but he hasn't gotten his payment yet. Zhao Shumi was even more furious. This house was at least 10 million yuan, but this unempiled son had sold it for 5. She let her husband down. Lan Tingyi wouldn't file a thing, I'll beat you to death. I thought you really wanted to invite me home and be loyal to me, but it was all a scam. Zhao Xunmi prepared to attack. The woman then spoke up. Madam, I can't interfere with your family's business. I have given you the money and the house is mine. Please leave and don't fight in my house or I will call the police. Bullshit, this is my house. My house! I lived here for years. Zhao Xunmi refused to leave. Ayn Rand watched everything triumphantly. Mom, it's not about the house now, it's about Yaxin. If Tingyi doesn't pay off, Yaxin will be in trouble. She's the Lan family's hope. Xu Yanchen was a little anxious. She couldn't wait to swallow this bastard alive. He didn't know anything other than gambling. Zhao Xunmi calmed down and looked at her house, then her disappointing son, who was very teary-eyed and pitiful. Tingyang, you're very capable. Can you save your son? We are family now. Zhao Xunmi was reminded of her rich second son. We're family now? We weren't a few moments ago, right? Ayn Rand smiled and said. Mom, this is a gambling debt. It can't be repaid. Tingyi will definitely gamble again. He sold the house today. We won't know what he'll do tomorrow. Lan Tingyang was obviously unwilling to get involved in this mess. As long as you help me pay off this 5 million, I won't gamble anymore. I'll find a job. Lan Tingyi knelt in front of Lan Tingyang and promised. Tingyang, save your brother. This house is a small matter, but Yaxin has a life. What if it falls into the hands of those gamblers? She's the hope of the Lan family. Zhao Xunmi wiped her tears and held Tingyang's hand, pleading. Tingyang, I was wrong. I'm not going to use the retirement fee anymore. It's my fault, but Yaxin is innocent. Lan Tingyi begged. Lan Tingyang's heart softened. His eldest brother and mother had begged him, so he couldn't say anything. Okay, my dad will help you, but he has a condition. Ayn Rand saw that her father was moved, and it wouldn't make any sense if she didn't let him save his mother and brother, but the money wasn't going to be for nothing. Chapter 129, Not for Nothing. Tell us, we will agree to whatever you say, Zhao Xunmi spoke straightforwardly. Lan Tingyi nodded anxiously. Firstly, after I help you pay off your debts, Uncle has to personally visit Dad to thank him and apologize for the past. Secondly, you can't convert the hospital's inheritance and ownership rights anymore. Thirdly, you can't pressure Dad to buy you a house because of the villa. Fourthly, you will have to pay the 5 million yuan back, and you will have to pay it back in 2 months. You can't use Grandma's retirement money. Will you agree to that? If you don't pay up, we will collect your debts. Ayn Rand listed the 4 arrangements, and Lan Tingyi and Zhao Xunmi looked conflicted. The first few conditions were all right, but the last one made things difficult for Lan Tingyi. Ayn Rand, you're asking for too much. 5 million in 2 months? How is Tingyi's family going to live? Lan Tingyang, are you really going to let your daughter decide? Zhao Xunmi clearly didn't want Lan Tingyi to suffer. Ayn Rand, 5 million. 2 months is too difficult, right? Lan Tingyang found it difficult. Dad, 5 million isn't for nothing. You know how Uncle is. There is no free lunch in this world. They should suffer for everything they have done previously. Besides, the 5 million is being taken out from the hospital. What if the hospital funds become tight? Ayn Rand spoke easily. Lan Tingyang thought about it and felt that it did make sense. He should be taught a lesson. Tingyi, I can help you, but you can't gamble anymore. Okay. Tingyang is the most sensible. Zhao Xunmi smiled tenderly. Mom, come with us now. Xu Yanchen was unwilling, but she could only do so for the time billing. Zhao Xunmi watched reluctantly as her big house was renovated and turned into someone else's. She had mixed feelings as she followed Lan Tingyi home. Back in the villa, Lan Tingyang immediately transferred 5 million yuan from the hospital to Lan Tingyi. When Li Yuro found this out, she was both relieved and worried. Tingyang, I'm not saying bad things about him, but seeing how he is, he might not even be able to pay us back in the 2 months. Lan Young naturally knew Lan Tingyi's personality as well. He felt that today's arrangement was just to give each other some face, and it would blow over with time. It's alright, we're a family, I don't mind. They don't treat you like family. Li Yuru's heart was clear. Ayn Rand knew this as well, but she didn't want her father to be so easygoing. She wouldn't let those vampires off so easily. She had the 5 million yuan from the house sale, and the 5 million from her father would naturally come back. Mom, Dad, let's not talk about unhappy things. I'm transferring to the arts departments tomorrow. When the school leaders found out that I participated in a talent show and was selected, they approved of it. They said that they would make me the school's spokesperson in the future. Yan Ren was overjoyed. My son is great. He's a star. Li was overjoyed. Study well and bring glory to the Lan family, Lan Tingyong said. Oh, right, Mom, Dad, the award ceremony for the pharmacy competition is tomorrow. Are you going? Ayn Rand smiled and asked. My daughter is first place. Of course I have to show my face. Lan Tingyong immediately broke into a smile at the thought. She was finally getting first place. I'm happy just by looking at Lan Yaxin's ugly face. Yan Ren was overjoyed that his sister won against Yaxin. Li Yu was also very happy to have 2 excellent children, which was much better than her eldest brother's family. After the meal, Ayn Rand returned to her room, turned on her computer, and received a message from Fatty. Boss, there's news about those leather shoes. They're from the United States, limited edition. There aren't more than 10 people in the world who can buy them. Send me their information. Ayn Rand's fingers moved swiftly over the computer, and she was a little surprised when Fatty sent her a message. Mo Jinrong actually bought them? Was it a coincidence? Boss, other than Mo Jinrong, we don't know anyone else here. I've also checked their information. Other than the fact that they were all very rich, it wasn't anything special. It's Mo Jinrong again. Why is he everywhere? Boss, recently the Mo Corporation is intending to purchase a new batch of herbs, which I thought is worthy of attention. Medicinal herbs? What medicinal herbs? Ayn Rand asked curiously. Recently, we have been monitoring Mo Jinrong. He bought a large number of herbs called land grass, which is usually used to relieve pain. The effects are good, but it is very scarce and usually very effective to cancer patients. I don't know where you got it from, Fatty said. Land grass? Ayn Rand fell into deep thought. Recently, she had been busy with the city and hasn't visited her herb garden in the countryside. There was a lot of land grass there, and she couldn't think of anyone else besides her who could use such herbs. It seemed like it was time to get close to Mo Jinrong's company. Got it. Continue to observe. Also, help me check on Mo Changwen. Ayn Rand was still upset about the car accident. She felt that there was definitely something fishy going on and couldn't think of anyone else besides Mo Changwen. In her past life, Mo Changwen didn't like her at all. However, she didn't care when he schemed to harm Mo Jinrong, so he didn't do anything to her. It was different this time. She now insisted on investigating his background. Chapter 130. She wanted abalone porridge. After school, Yaxin went straight home to see Zhao Shumi cursing Lan Tingyi non-stop. How did I raise such uninfallible creatures? Tingyong made me worried, and you didn't let me live in peace. That was your father's old house, and you were cheated. All you know is to gamble. Now the house is gone. Lan Tingyi, you're useless. Mom, don't hold Tingyi anymore. If it weren't for Tingyong's ruthlessness, we shouldn't have ended up like this. It's his fault for being so stingy. Shu Yanshin was displeased. Grandma, why are you here? Yaxin was a little surprised when she entered. Previously, Grandma was always in the villa. Although her mother had asked her to come over and stay a few times, Grandma never agreed. But now the house was stuffed full of Grandma's things, making it seem like she was going to stay here permanently. Ask your useless father what he's up to, this useless thing. This time he sold the villa, but next time he'll sell his daughter. Lan Tingyi, if you hurt my granddaughter just because of a gambling incident, I won't forgive you even if I die. Zhao Shumi was still angry and warned Lan Tingyi. Yaxin glanced at her father, who had his head lowered. She had a pretty good guess of what happened. She walked over to Zhao Shumi and implored her, "Grandma, don't scold Dad anymore. What will happen in the future?" Zhao Shumi caressed Yaxin's head. "Granddaughter, Grandma doesn't have a home anymore. But Ayn Rand wants your father to pay her 5 million in 2 months. She's forcing your father and me to death." "Ayn Rand?" Yaxin was slightly taken aback, suddenly recalling Ayn Rand's words for a few days ago. Was this the gift she was referring to? "Grandma, I think this must have something to do with Ayn Rand. Perhaps Ayn Rand is the one who came to threaten us," Yaxin said doubtfully. "What? That brat is so capable?" Xu Yanshan was in disbelief. "Those who were here to collect debts looked extremely malicious, so how could Ayn Rand order them around? Why not? She's just a countryside girl with some good looks. Those debtors would definitely listen to her if she seduced them. If Ayn Rand really caused this, I won't let her off." Lan Tingyi blamed Ayn Rand for everything. It was also because that brat that he was tortured so badly. "Yeah, let Ayn Rand, that brat. If she really dares to do so, I won't let her go." Zhao Shumi's eyes were filled with hatred, and she couldn't wait to rip Ayn Rand apart and feed her to the dogs. "Since that's the case, let's not return the 5 million. Since I repaid it and there's no promissory note, what can she do to us?" Lan Tingyi thought. "Mom, just stay here and don't mess around. I doubt that brat will cause trouble." Xu Yanshan treated Zhao Shumi like a treasure. As long as Zhao Shumi was around, Ayn Rand didn't dare to cause trouble. Zhao Shumi nodded, suddenly feeling hungry. She looked at Xu Yanshan. "Yanshan, I'm a little hungry." She hadn't eaten anything since coming back from the hospital and hasn't felt hungry until now due to her emotional fluctuations. "Mom, wait for me to cook some noodles for you," Xu Yanshan immediately spoke. Zhao Shumi was stunned. She had never eaten noodles in the villa. She coughed. "Yanshan, is there anything else in the home? I'm not used to eating noodles. Do you have any abalone cogni?" That was her favorite food in the villa, fresh and fragrant. "Mom, abalones are expensive. Now that the family's tight on finances, how can I have money to buy abalones?" Xu Yanshan was a little surprised. She knew that old Mrs. Lan led a luxurious life consisting of abalones and ginseng. But if she were to eat all those good foods with the little money they had now, it would be gone sooner or later. "Didn't I give you a bank card last time? There's at least 1 million in it, can't you?" Zhao Shumi said anxiously. "Mom, have you forgotten? The money is for giving birth to your grandson. We need the money once your grandson is born, so we have to save money. I'll make some noodles for you," Xu Yanshan said, turned around and went to the kitchen. "I'm going to teach Ayn Rand a lesson. Just wait until I chase that brat out of the Lan family." Lan Tingyi returned to his room angrily. "At Mo Chang Wen's house, I'm so angry. A bunch of useless people." Mo Chang Wen paced the living room angrily while Xu Pei walked down with a face mask on. "What's wrong with you again?" "Lan Ayn Rand is really not a kind person." Mo Chang Wen spoke aggressively. "Mo Jinrong has finally married someone tough. We can't rush this. The best option is to chase her out of the Mo family." Xu Pei touched the face mask as she said that. Mo Chang Wen didn't just want to chase her out of the Mo family. He wanted her to disappear from his sight forever. Mo Jinrong was recovered, and the Mo family would finally be ours if Lan Ayn Rand disappears. Mo Chang Wen spoke fiercely.